The rain came down in sheets, turning the streets of Willow Creek into rivers of gray. It was late September, the kind of afternoon where the air smelled of wet leaves and regret. Jack Harlan, Manamon Wenchuin, a mechanic with calloused hands and a heart still mending from loss, sat in his battered Chevy pickup, the engine idling as the windshield wipers slapped a steady rhythm. Willow Creek wasn't much, a small town nestled in the folds of Tennessee's rolling hills, where the diner stayed open late and the hardware store doubled as a gossip hub. Jack didn't mind the quiet. It suited him, especially after the storms of his past. A wife gone too soon, a daughter who kept him tethered to the world, and a garage that paid the bills but never filled the ache. He was about to pull away from the curb when he spotted it. A bright green food truck stalled halfway up Cedar Slope, the steepest hill in town. Steam curled from its hood like a distress signal. Behind it, a woman pushed with everything she had, her sneakers slipping on the slick pavement. Her hair, a tangle of chestnut caught in the rain, clung to her face. Jack's first thought was to keep driving. He wasn't in the habit of playing hero, but something in her posture, the stubborn set of her shoulders, the way she leaned into the truck like it was the only thing keeping her upright, made him pause. He threw the truck into gear and eased up the hill, pulling over just ahead of her. The rain stung his face as he stepped out, tugging his denim jacket tighter. "You trying to push this thing up in a monsoon?" he called, his voice rough but kind. Cutting through the wind, the woman startled, blinking water from her eyes. She wasn't from around here. Her clothes, a soaked linen jacket and jeans too clean for Willow Creek, gave that away. "It just died," she said, breathless, her voice carrying a faint tremble. No warning, nothing. Jack didn't bother with small talk. He jogged to the truck, popped the hood, and winced at the hiss of steam. "Radiator's cooked," he said, wiping his hands on his jeans. "And your battery's not far behind." "Perfect." "Ah," she muttered, a half laugh escaping her lips. It was the kind of laugh that hid exhaustion, and Jack knew it well. He'd heard it in his own voice too many times. "Let's get it off the road before someone rear-ends you," he said. Together, they leaned into the truck, Jack's boots gripping the pavement, her smaller frame straining beside him. She was stronger than she looked, but the hill fought back. His shoulder burned, and his breath came in short bursts. But they made it, guiding the truck into the gravel lot beside Harlan's auto. The moment the wheels stopped, she slumped against the bumper, her laughter sharp and raw, like she'd been holding it in for miles. "You okay?" Jack asked, crouching beside her. Rain dripped from the brim of his cap, and he studied her face, pale, freckled, with eyes that held too many stories. She nodded, swiping a sleeve across her forehead. "I've been through 6 towns this month. This one's trying to break me. You picked a good spot to stall out," he said, offering a hand. "Jack Harlan, that's my shop right there." She took his hand, her grip firm despite the chill in her fingers. "Lila," she said, hesitating just a fraction before her name. "Just Lila." Jack noticed the pause, the way her eyes flicked away. People running from something always carried that kind of weight. "Food truck yours?" he asked, nodding at the faded lettering on the side. "The Wandering Fork, for better or worse." "Or tuition," she said, a wry smile tugging at her lips. "It's a project, pop-up kitchens, small towns, that kind of thing." He raised an eyebrow. "Most folks stick to highways and GPS. Where's the adventure in that?" She shot back. And for the first time, her smile felt real. Jack didn't push for more. He didn't need to. There was something about her, a quiet strength wrapped in weariness, that made him want to offer more than a toe. "You hungry?" he asked, the words out before he could second-guess them. "Me and my daughter, Sophie, we're about to eat. You're welcome to join." Lila hesitated, her eyes searching his face for an angle. Finding none, "Tulane?" She nodded. "I'd like that." The Harlan house sat behind the garage, a modest 2-story with peeling paint and a porch that creaked underfoot. Inside, it smelled of home, roasted chicken, fresh biscuits, and the faint tang of motor oil that followed Jack everywhere. To thee. Sophie, 7 years old and all elbows and curiosity, skidded into the kitchen in mismatched socks. "Who's she?" she asked, eyeing Lila with the unfiltered scrutiny of a child. "This is Lila," Jack said, ruffling Sophie's hair. "She's joining us for dinner." Sophie's eyes lit up. "Can she stay for dessert too?" Lila laughed. the sound soft and unguarded. If there's dessert, I'm not going anywhere. Over dinner, the kitchen glowed with warmth. Lila sat at the oak table, Jack's old flannel draped over her shoulders, her damp jacket steaming by the radiator. Sophie chattered about school, her pet turtle, and her firm belief that ketchup belonged on everything. Jack watched Lila relax, her guarded edges softening with every bite of chicken and every giggle from Sophie. He told her about his life, fixing cars, raising Sophie alone since his wife, Emily, passed 3 years ago. Lila shared little in return, only that she was between lives. Ishamanaman Kushman. Her words careful but heavy. When Sophie asked if she'd be in town tomorrow, Lila glanced at Jack, then said, maybe. Jack didn't know then that she was no ordinary wanderer. He didn't know she was Lila Grayson, once the face of a culinary empire, a woman who'd traded boardrooms for backroads. All he knew was that her smile, when Sophie offered her a second helping of biscuits, was the first real one he'd seen all evening. The next morning, Willow Creek woke under a sky scrubbed clean by the storm. Lila stood by her food truck, assessing the damage with a mix of determination and dread. She'd slept in Jack's guest room, the quiet of the house wrapping around her like a blanket. No emails, no deadlines, just the hum of crickets and the faint creak of floorboards. It was the deepest sleep she'd had in years. Jack emerged from the garage, wiping grease from his hands. You're up early. So are you, she said, her voice lighter than yesterday. She gestured at the truck. Thinking I might try a pop-up while I'm stuck here. Parts won't be in for a few days. Right. Marsimum. Jack nodded, intrigued. Here in attention. Here, in my lot. It's got good traffic, she said, a spark in her eyes. Sophie mentioned there's no decent lunch spot nearby. Jack chuckled. Sophie's your business consultant now. She's got a point. Lila said, grinning. I just need an outlet. The fridge is on its last legs. Let me rig something up, Jack offered. Temporary, but safe. Lila studied him, wary of kindness that came too easily. But Jack's offer was steady, no strings attached. Okay, she said. Let's do it. By noon, the pop-up was alive. Sophie had drawn a chalkboard sign. Fork on the hill, tacos, soap, and Suriname, and sweets. Lila worked the tiny kitchen with quiet precision, her hands moving like they remembered joy. The first customers were skeptical, a pair of loggers who ordered tacos and left with surprised smiles. By afternoon, word spread. A retired teacher lingered over tomato soup. A trucker asked for seconds, and the town's librarian, Miss Evelyn, declared Lila's grilled cheese a hug on a plate. Jack watched from the garage, pretending to tinker with a carburetor, but his eyes kept drifting to Lila. She wasn't just cooking, she was weaving herself into Willow Creek, one plate at a time. As the sun set, Lila collapsed into a folding chair, exhausted but glowing. Jack handed her a water bottle. Didn't think tacos would work here, he said. They didn't, she said, laughing. They flew near a direction. Sophie ran up, clutching a fistful of crumpled bills. You made $74. Shrieked, she announced. That's more than Dad made last Tuesday. Jack shot her a mock glare. We don't share garage profits. Kid weren't farting 20. Can Lila stay tomorrow? Sophie asked, her eyes wide. Lila looked at Jack, who gave a slow nod. If she wants, something shifted then, a quiet agreement, a shared warmth. That evening, Jack sat on the porch, a beer in hand, the twilight softening the edges of Willow Creek's worn rooftops. Lila joined him, wrapped in one of Emily's old sweaters. You always sit out here, she asked. Most nights, he said. Makes the world feel small. Lila stared at the horizon. I've spent years chasing a bigger world. It's lonelier than I expected. Jack turned to her, his voice low. You don't seem like someone who's lost. Depends on what you're measuring, she said, her smile bittersweet. I built something people wanted, but I lost track of why I started. Now I'm cooking tacos in a gravel lot, and it feels right. He held her gaze. Ever think about staying? Her breath caught, but she didn't answer. The silence wasn't heavy, it was hopeful, like a seed waiting for spring. The second day was busier. By noon, a line stretched past the lot. Lila moved with grace, her hands quick but never rushed. Each plate a small gift. People didn't just come for food, they came for her. She remembered names, asked about their lives, and gave extra soup to a man who couldn't pay. Jack watched, a warmth spreading in his chest he hadn't felt in years. But when he overheard her on the phone later, her voice tight, I'm not coming back yet. I need time. He sensed the weight she carried. She wasn't just passing through. She was running. That night, over meatloaf and mashed potatoes, Sophie asked, Lila, non me, is your last name Grayson? Like the lady on the Food Channel. Lila froze, her fork trembling. Jack's eyes narrowed, but his voice stayed gentle. What's she talking about? Lila set her fork down, her hands shaking. I used to own Grayson's Plate, she said quietly. A restaurant chain. I didn't mean to hide it. I just needed a place where no one knew me. Sophie's eyes widened. So you're famous. Not for the right reasons, Lila said, her voice breaking. Jack leaned back, his jaw tight. You should have told me. I know, she whispered. I didn't want us to be about who I was. He stood, his voice steady but cold. It's not. But I deserved to know who I was letting into my daughter's life. Lila's eyes glistened. I'm sorry. Sophie looked between them, her voice small. Are you leaving? Not yet, Lila said. But the words felt fragile. The next morning, the food truck stayed dark. Lila stood inside, staring at her reflection in the steel counter, her heart a tangle of guilt and longing. She was Lila Grayson again, not the woman who'd served soup and laughed with Sophie. It terrified her. When Jack arrived to install a new starter, their exchange was brief, polite, and heavy with unspoken hurt. I wanted to tell you, she said, her voice raw. But you didn't, Jack replied, not looking up. I was scared you'd see me differently. He stood, wiping his hands. I see you more clearly now. The words cut deeper than anger. Lila's chest ached. I should go. Do what feels honest, he said, his tone a mix of dismissal and invitation. By noon, the truck was still closed. Lila sat inside, clutching a photo from her old life, her in a pristine chef's coat, surrounded by a team she barely remembered. She'd been untouchable then, but hollow. Your one-on-one arm. A knock startled her. It was Tom Wheeler. The town's retired barber. Folks miss your soup, he said through the window. Heard you're some big shot. Don't matter. People here care about how you treat them, not what you left behind. Lila's throat tightened. I hurt someone. Then fix it. Tom said, truth hurts, but silence kills. That night, Lila knocked on Jack's door. He opened it, surprise flickering in his eyes. Sophie's at a sleepover, he said. I'm not here for Sophie. Ashirkum, she replied, stepping inside. I need to say what I should have from the start. Jack crossed his arms. Waiting. I built Grayson's Plate because I love food, she said, her voice steady but raw. I lost it because I let it become someone else's dream. I got tired of being Lila Grayson, of living for applause. I ran Wasanawun, not from the company, but to find something real. I found it here, with you, with Sophie, during my Rawasadu. I should have been honest. If I've broken this, I'll go. But I needed you to know. Jack's expression softened, but his voice was quiet. You didn't break it. Lila. Never can. You shook it. I wasn't ready for that. She nodded, tears brimming. I'll give you time. As she turned to leave, he called, Lila Nianar. She looked back. You made this town feel alive, he said. I don't know what that means for us, but don't give up on what you started. She smiled, her heart lighter. I'll sure you once. I won't. 3 days passed in silence. The food truck sat empty. Its chalkboard sign faded. Jack felt the absence like a bruise. Lila's laugh. Her warmth. You were gone. Sophie felt it too. Her questions about Lila sharper each day. On the 4th day, Jack found a notebook in the garage. Tucked among invoices, Lila's handwriting filled the pages, recipes, sketches, and a note in the margin. Not about fame anymore. About feeling. Tucked inside was a napkin with a message. For the man who made me believe in home. That night, Sophie lit a candle at dinner. It's for Lila, she said. She did this when she missed someone. Jack's throat tightened. He didn't speak, but the ache grew louder. On Friday, Tom stopped by the garage. Town's dull without her, he said, tossing a grocery bag on the workbench. You let her go. I didn't know how to keep her, Jack admitted, slamming a hood shut. Then tell her now, Tom said, handing him the notebook. That evening, Jack sat on the porch, the napkin in his lap. Sophie joined him, her voice small. She left because she was scared, not because she didn't care. How do you know? Jack asked. She hugged me like Mom used to, Sophie said, and she cried when she thought I wasn't looking. The next morning, Jack made a decision. Over breakfast, he told Sophie, "We're going to New York." Her eyes widened. "To get Lila, to tell her she's welcome," he said. New York was a shock, loud, relentless, a city that didn't pause. The headquarters of Grayson's Plate loomed in Midtown. All glass and steel, Jack felt out of place in his flannel. Sophie's hand tight in his. The receptionist barely glanced up. "Do you have an appointment?" "I'm here for Lila Grayson," Jack said. "And you are?" "Bitter Jack Harlan." "For a year." From Willow Creek. Before the receptionist could respond, Lila's voice cut through. "It's okay." She stood at the corridor's edge, her hair in a neat bun, a blazer replacing her usual jeans. But her eyes, soft, unguarded, were the same. Sophie ran to her, and Lila knelt, hugging her fiercely. Jack's heart clenched as their eyes met. "Didn't mean to barge in," he said, holding out the notebook. "You left this. Our free Tunhara. She took it, her fingers brushing his. "I wasn't sure you'd want it." "I didn't," he said, "but I needed to." Lila's voice was soft. "Want to come up?" He shook his head. "You've already come down to meet us." Her eyes glistened. "Jack, I'm not asking you to come back," he said. "Just don't think you have to run." Sophie tugged Lila's sleeve, handing her a drawing, 3 stick figures under a green food truck, hearts above their heads. "You forgot this," she said. Lila's voice broke. "I missed you both." They walked to Central Park, the city fading into the crunch of leaves. Lila spoke quietly. "I'm stepping back from the company. I want to cook again, small, slow, 100 wine, real, maybe near Willow Creek." Jack's shoulders relaxed. "Is that an offer for nocturne? Nabit duri yasorch?" "A confession," she said, smiling. Sophie piped up. "Can we have brownies at the new place?" Lila laughed, tears falling. Every day, a week later, Lila was back in Willow Creek, a picnic basket in hand. The meadow outside town shimmered under golden sunlight. Jack and Sophie waited by a checkered blanket, the air sweet with pine and promise. Lila unpacked sandwiches, lemonade, and brownies dusted with cinnamon. They ate in easy silence. Sophie nestled against Lila, Jack's hand brushing hers. "I left because I thought it'd be easier," Lila said, her voice low. "But I miss this. Sophie's stories." "You're quiet. I want to build something here. A small kitchen, real food, no brand. I'm calling it Hearth and Story." Jack's eyes softened. "You'll need help. I'm counting on it," she said, her gaze steady. "A family thing, if you're in one." "Cosinto." Sophie grinned. "Can I take orders?" "You're hired." "Suriforinonmen," Lila said. 2 weeks later, a sign went up. Hearth and Story, real version of Omakishomen. Ni ready for the mesh. Real hearts are one manrashonas ones. The old florist shop on Main Street had been transformed. Wood floors, mismatched tables, and a chalkboard menu with Sophie's doodles. On opening day, the town showed up. Tom, Miss Evelyn, the mayor, Lonosha Sokorin, kids from Sophie's school. Lila cooked with joy. Jack served with quiet pride. And Sophie whispered, "Try the soup, it's magic." By dusk, the 3 sat on the steps, eating leftover brownies. "We did good," Lila said, leaning against Jack. "You made Miss Evelyn cry," he said. "Meng," grinning. "That's a win." One. Sophie yawned. "Will we be open forever?" "As long as people need stories," Lila said, kissing her forehead. Jack pulled out Sophie's drawing, now framed behind the counter. "She knew you'd come back." Lila smiled. "She did." So Churchamam. A year later, the food truck, repainted, renamed Fork on the Hill, stood beside Hearth and Story, a monument to where it began. Inside, Lila flipped pancakes in Tursumanon. Sophie whipped cream, and Jack poured coffee. The ring, and Wakinan, an heirloom from Jack's mother, now sat on Lila's finger, slipped on during a quiet moment under the pines. As they locked up that night, the stars bright above. Jack wrapped an arm around Lila. Sophie between them, the air held cinnamon. Hope, Anyuri, and home. Hey, from home. Friends, thanks for joining us on this journey. Where are you watching from? What moment in Lila and Jack's story hit you hardest? Drop it in the comments. Your thoughts make this community feel like family. If you love stories of kindness and second chances, hit that subscribe button for H Stories and turn on notifications. More tales are coming your way. Until next time, keep believing in the quiet power of goodness.